Yes.
Namaste and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand, where we train the spotlight on Pakistan-inspired, induced and backed terror footprints across the world. From India to Afghanistan and all the way up to Sweden, they are active and they are a global terror threat. It's high time this organization and this nation is branded a terror state, and its organization, the ISI, proscribed. The latest coming in from Srinagar. First up, it's a sad story that one of the oldest faces or most well-known faces, he had one of the biggest chemist shops, and he was very well known. Dr. M.L. Bindru has been shot dead by terrorists. 68-year-old Dr. Bindru shot dead around the Iqbal Park area of Srinagar. He was shot at 4 times and declared brought dead at the hospital when he was taken to this Srinagar Medical Hospital. Mufti Islah now joins us with more details. Dr. Bindru and his shop, anybody and everybody in that area knows about him. What happened, Mufti?
Extremely tragic story. What we're picking up is that he was inside his shop when all of a sudden at least one person went in. He fired from point blank range, and in fact we've been told that his body had some 4 bullets when it was taken to SMHS hospital. But unfortunately the doctors declared it brought dead. But we've seen in the past so many months now, it's kind of become a pattern that minority community members have been targeted. We saw it in the case of Satpal Nischal, who was a jeweler, extremely famous jeweler, and in fact he had developed tremendous community relations with the majority here. Same was the case with Dr. Makhanlal Bindru. I remember buying a lot of medicines from him. In fact, 3 generations of our family would get medicines from him because he was extremely prominent and his drugs were considered to be unadulterated. So he was in this business for the last 50 years. He had opened a lot of, shops, not only in Srinagar city, but outside, Srinagar. So he was quite famous, but this news has really shocked. People know Dr. Bindru because he was also a diabetologist, but at the same time, he was leading this extremely famous shop in Srinagar. Clearly, it is, I expect that a lot of people are certainly going to condemn this. Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti, all would be really, condemning this incident as has happened in the past. But clearly, Srinagar is extremely sad.
Who are these? Who are these terrorists? Is there any identification or where they came from, where they were headed? Are there any eyewitnesses?
This time around, police has just spotted that area, so it would be too premature. But we know that the police have been telling us that there are some modules of TRF who are quite active. And in fact, a few days back, we also saw 2 civilians were shot in Srinagar at Batmalu and Karanagar, which are again not far from this place. But police have identified really this module who are doing these shooting incidents in Srinagar.
Well, they should be neutralized soon too. That's the task of the security forces, and it will be done. Mufti Islah, thank you for your input. So another Kashmiri, another Hindu nailed down or killed by Pak-sponsored bullets, and this is the Pak-sponsored terrorists who have also been allowed to take over an entire nation, who are now perpetrating atrocities on ethnic minorities. And this story comes from Afghanistan. So from Srinagar, let's move across to Afghanistan, where this is visual evidence that we are putting forward. Another instance that shows Sikhs in Afghanistan are unsafe after the Taliban takeover. This is a group of unidentified, heavily armed Taliban who have entered and desecrated the Gurdwara Karte Parwa in Kabul. They have actually, the report suggests that they have actually taken community members present in the Gurdwara as hostage or into custody. Visuals have also emerged of CCTV cameras at the Gurdwara being smashed. We are yet to ascertain if it's just CCTV cameras or if there are other parts of the Gurdwara also that have been damaged or attacked. This is one of the members taking us through this video. Let's go across to Puneet Chandok, who's joining us on the phone line. He's the president of the Indian World Forum. Puneet ji, namaste. This is Anand Narasimhan here. Now, reports of this Gurdwara being desecrated and Taliban coming in and forcing their way in.
Yeah, this is an unfortunate incident which has happened a few hours back today at Kabul. And the worst part on this is that it has happened in a broad daylight when the local Sikh community and the Hindu community was resting at their houses, and suddenly a group of 20 to 25 armed, heavily militants dashed into the Gurdwara and vandalized the electronic system installed over there for the security purposes, and also they tried to enter the main Darbar hall of the Gurdwara at the place where Sri Guru Granth Sahib is placed, and they have also abused the sanctity of the Gurdwara, which is a major concern as that they will be protecting the rights and the interests of the minorities living there. But unfortunately, with the today's incident, it shows a double standard. However, as far as I learned right now, a senior team of intelligence officials of Taliban-led government is there on the ground, where they are apparently denying that they have any role in the said incident. But this cannot be easily taken for granted, because any activity which is happening up in a broad daylight surely has got patronage of the Taliban-led Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan.
True, but the other aspect, Puniji, if I may ask you, are there people who've been taken hostage?
Apparently, initially there were reports that some people have been taken hostage by the team which had come to the Gurdwara and vandalized. And later on, when we confirmed, they had, yes, taken up the security guards which were employed with the Gurdwara. They had handcuffed them and locked them in a room at the Gurdwara. And after they vandalized the premises, they freed them up and fled from there. And thereafter, as the news reached out to the community officials over there, all have landed up at the Gurdwara since past 1 hour and are confronting with the local officials. But till now, the motive behind this incident and why such kind of activity has taken place is unknown. At the same time, Sikhs and Hindus have been repeatedly targeted in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And their safety remains an utmost concern, and we have also appealed Government of India, the Prime Minister, to immediately intervene with the international authorities and ensure that they are well protected and their rights are covered over there.
Well, Puneetji, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking with us. There are more visuals coming through, some of which we've already put on air, of how the Gurdwara premises has been forcefully entered and also vandalized, and the attempt to try and enter into the main Darbar Sahib where the Guru Granth Sahib was kept, but that was averted. But clearly concerns being raised on the safety of the Sikh community in Kabul, especially after the Taliban takeover. Moving on to the other big game. So from Srinagar to Kabul and now to Sweden, ladies and gentlemen, where this entire agenda of global jihad emanating from Pakistan has also now shown its ugly face. ISI backed, ISI inspired, and this is nothing but the terror footprint of global jihad. And in a mega exclusive courtesy our investigations editor Manoj Gupta, we show you how the 2611 mastermind is now orchestrating global jihad at the behest of the ISI. This is the big exclusive here at CNN News 18 on the right stand. So now we are given to understand the architect of the 2611 mastermind, Sajid Mir, in collaboration with the ISI, is responsible for the killing or the death of Lars Vilks. The killing of Swedish cartoonist Lars Vilks. The entire incident was he was killed in an accident. he had a hand in the terror ops in Denmark and Germany. This is Sajid Mir. He is in the Afghan theatre since 2006, besides being operating in the Northwest Frontier Province in Pakistan and also the FATA region. There have been attacks in Australia in 2003 with French national Willy Brigitte. Then he recruited David Coleman Headley from the US, Fahim Lodi from Australia. And Sajid Mir is the one behind the death or the killing of Lars Vilks. FATF heat on Pakistan over info on Sajid Mir, Masood Azhar and Zakiur Rahman Lakwi. That's why they continue to remain in the grey list, and Sajid Mir is someone they have not been able to offer. Now, we're given to understand that it was no accident, it was actually orchestrated. What happened with Lars Vilks was orchestrated. He had security, there was a clear threat on him. He and his driver both succumbed, and Lars Vilks was a clear target because there was a bounty kept on his head by these terror operatives, terror groups, for the cartoons he had posted, and he was clearly a target. That's what we are given to understand. Ambassador Parthasarathy with us, Colonel Lawrence Sellin and Dr. Tara Karta also with us. But first, going across to Tariq Fatah, author and columnist, joining us via Skype from Toronto in Canada. Pak, a terror state. Pak terror state is the hashtag. Is it not high time to proscribe the ISI and deem Pakistan a terror state? Today, in the last 10 minutes, Tariq Fatah, from Srinagar to Kabul to Sweden, 3 instances have come to the fore, and it all emanates from Pakistan.
Well, of course, Pakistan should be designated as a state sponsor of terrorism, but it should be first India that should do it and boycott all trade, cultural exchanges, or any sort of meeting with them. This is India's neighborhood. Hindustan is the only safe place in the region. If you count how the Chinese Communist Party and its dictatorship operates now with the connivance of Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban, nothing is hidden from the truth. The Chinese can get away with almost 100,000 Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps, and yet, let alone Pakistan, every other Islamic country is bending over backwards to get the patronage of China. So we have a serious situation where the crimes being committed across the world are not just Pakistan fomenting these jihadi international rackets, but they have the firm support of China. China today is in line with the Islamist alliance. It is threatening Malaysia today, which is, you must have read the news. Yes. Taiwan is being attacked from all sides by, to last count, about 100 Chinese aircraft. They are in the region, threatening to invade Taiwan. There are eyes right across the world. If the Pakistan-China axis does, which then brings out the vast imperial nature of present-day China, aided by the jihadi Islamic terrorists that are born and bred in Pakistan and spread right across Europe. We have a very serious situation in hand, which is not being taken seriously even by Western countries, because trade seems and making money seems to be the priority right across Western Europe and North America. And they just turn their face to another side. Let China do what it wishes to do. If it takes over Ethiopia or Eritrea or Zambia or Zimbabwe or even Peru or Burma, who cares? And in the end, the only democracy in the region, which is Bharat, will suffer, because that is the goal of China. And I hope I am wrong, but I feel that even in India, the recognition is not there that the eyes of Chinese imperialism are like the East India Company that will slowly creep in and take over without resistance. And this time they have allies in Pakistan and Afghanistan. True. And let me just go back to Afghanistan for a second. Your previous discussion was talking about the attacks on Sikh gurdwaras and Hindu temples. Yesterday, they exploded a bomb outside a mosque.
Yeah.
This is, they are killing each other in their quest to go to paradise and have those 72 virgins that every jihadi seems to be missing on earth. And if we are not going to confront the ideological basis of what was 9/11, what was 26/11 in Mumbai, or how Lok Sabha was attacked, what's happening in Kashmir, what is happening in Kerala, what is happening in Calcutta, we will have missed the boat. This is an ideological war in which democracy has to prevail over authoritarian communism and international jihadism.
Great. Agree. Authoritarianism with fundamentalism is a very, very dangerous and a very potent mix that democracies of the world are up against, and that's a very fair argument that you make, Tariq Fatah Sahab. The other thing is democracies of the world also have not come together to put their might and energy to take out those who are orchestrating these attacks. There is a lot that can be done which has not yet been done. I'm just going to take it to our other panelists and then come back to you, Ambassador Parthasarathy. This again makes a very, very strong case, which nobody has asked. Where is the global call to turn around and act against Pakistan, to stop the aid to Pakistan, to also create a task force of intelligence agencies and groupings together, which will identify and single out elements like Sajid Mir, Masood Azhar, Zakir Rahman, Lakhvi and their ilk, and start taking them out?
Look, having dealt with this issue in Pakistan itself, let me tell you, the biggest fake which is being perpetrated in the world is by the United States. The US was aware of Sajid Mir. He was aware of his role in Mumbai of supervising it from Islamabad. The US did nothing. Even today, they soft pedal Taliban and their connections with Pakistan. That is the part of life of the Biden administration. It takes congressional pressure to agree to publish what all they know, and they will not. Look, they knew that Sajid Mir was involved in France, in Denmark, in the US, in Australia, and in Denmark and France, it was plainly killing people who he believed had blasphemed the Prophet. This is a marked plan to say, hey, I'm still around.
Yeah.
So the US will do precious little, is my view, for us. This is a country which allowed Osama bin Laden a number of years in Pakistan itself, and was almost apologetic when they caught him and killed him. So I think much more has to be done by us, and as I see with the Taliban coming in, this factor is going to move towards the Central Asian countries, particularly Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and the Russians are very concerned. So I think one thing is that their focus is going to be there. They've always had ambitions there. And we have to tie up with countries in Central Asia. Yes, seeing the mood in the US Congress, I think there is going to be considerable pressure on Joe Biden and his administration. And I think it is time we played with everyone who can have any influence. But look, Headley tried, no one hears of him. Do you know, during the Headley and other trials, Americans hardly gave us any real-time information on what they had learned from these people who had participated in the Mumbai attacks. So, yes, the US is essential. Trust them. Look beyond. And most importantly, I think Pakistan is tying itself in knots with the Tehreek-e-Taliban.
No, see, whatever Pakistan, let Pakistan self-implode, how do we care? But the fact
of that is just what I'm saying.
Correct.
That is the focal point of the problem they're going to have.
Well, if they grow, if they feed and if they pet, if they raise snakes as pets, one of them is going to turn around and bite them, and that's what they're doing. They're raising snakes in their own backyard.
That's all we're waiting for.
True.
And I think that's what we should work towards actively.
But Ambassador Parthasarathy, why should we wait for this? Why is it that we cannot form a task force and we cannot turn around and say that we are going to go all out?
Just a minute. On this sort of thing, yes, we can do it. But when you have others ranging from the Iranians to the Tajiks who are unhappy in the region, on the borders of Afghanistan, we have found in practice that is a useful partnership. The Taliban will never be accepted in Central Asia.
Correct.
And that means...
But I'm just saying, elements like Sajid Mir, elements like Masood Azhar and then his son or his heir, then Zakir Rahman Lakhvi and the next lot, which is now taken over from, and it's the active cadre. We have all the names and we know their location. Colonel Selen, is it so difficult for nations or democracies to realize that this is a fight against fundamentalist forces and authoritarian forces, and this is how you got to go after them?
Well, I think it's quite clear that Pakistan is not only an epicenter for terrorism in South Asia, but an epicenter for terrorism internationally. I think India is going to have to take some leadership and set an example, because other countries, as you note, are not picking up the slack in regard to Pakistan. And we're facing an alliance of China, Pakistan, and the Taliban now in South Asia. So I think India should do three things. First, India needs to hold Joe Biden's feet to the fire. Prime Minister Modi and Biden signed a joint statement on terrorism during the Quad meeting. India should demand that Joe Biden delivers on his promises. Second, India needs to do a better job making its case internationally, that Pakistan is a problem not just for India, but globally. For example, two prominent members of the Islamic State of Khorasan province, Ismail Punjabi and Huzaifa al-Pakistani, came from Lashkar-e-Taiba and were connected to Al-Qaeda and other transnational terrorist groups. And all of these link back to Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI. Finally, India needs to make an argument for decoupling Pakistan's use of terrorism as an instrument of its foreign policy and Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, which it uses as blackmail. India successfully decoupled them in the February 2019 Balakot raid. But in Washington, D.C., all I hear is that nothing can be done about Pakistani terrorism because Pakistan has nuclear weapons. That false narrative must change.
True, and that false narrative can change. Why should Pakistan want to trigger its nuclear missiles out if a Sajid Mir is taken out? Why should we have to go after and continue to bang our heads against China in the UN Security Council for years before Masood Azhar was proscribed? Tariq Fatah wanted to say something. I'll go across to Tariq Fatah and then come to you, Dr. Tara Karta. Thank you for your patience.
I would just suggest what India can do very easily, but it will have to break its long-standing thought process in the External Affairs Department. If India would just set up a Balochistan house in Delhi and allow Baloch exiles living right across the Gulf, in the United Kingdom, in France, and some even in Russia, to have a say. You Indians must realize Balochistan was an independent country before India and Pakistan became independent.
Correct.
And it is been occupied by Pakistan military invasion. It's as simple as that. You set up the house, you don't have to do anything. There are hundreds of thousands of people like us who are in exile who would like to see this misery that has come upon us through the partition. But remember, India can't even remove Jinnah's portrait from Aligarh University. And Pakistanis laugh at Indians. Okay, well, they can't even take down a portrait. Give it to me, I'll do it. Just let me in, I'll tear it up and deposited to the nearest Pakistan embassy. So this curse on India, which was inflicted in 1947, for once should be eliminated. There is no place for Mr. Jinnah in any part of India. How dare that the bullying goes on, that not only are we not supporting Ghaffar Khan's Pashtun, just the Khan market is not going to solve a problem. But Bacha Khan, a true nationalist, Indian nationalist, said when he was leaving in the train, कि हमको गीदड़ों के पास छोड़ के जा रहे हो. He told Mr. Gandhi, you're letting us in the hands of wolves. And that's what happened. There are people dying every day in Sindh.
I agree.
In Balochistan.
I agree.
So, don't even say anything. Just set the exiles, give them a place to speak. And you will notice the difference that takes place.
True. I agree. It's not about taking down a poster of Jinnah. It's taking down Jinnah itself. So it's taking down the thought process and taking down the instrument of that thought process, and perhaps that has to have some amount of kinetic and active action, not passive diplomacy, or I'm not saying diplomacy is passive, but soft diplomacy. It's got to be a little harder. So with no disrespect to our diplomatic efforts, it's just what I hope you take it in the spirit, Ambassador Parthasarathy, where I'm coming from.
I don't entirely disagree.
True. Dr. Tarakarta, your thought, is it so difficult to do this, to ensure that there is a concentrated effort among multiple nations with strong intelligence efforts to start taking out these people with bounties on their heads who are proscribed internationally? Is it so difficult to do?
Anand, I think your own data should show the ease which should be there. I mean, here is Sajid Zaid, who is like a real-life character from Frederick Watson. He appears out of the blue and then disappears and is not to be seen. According to what you said, and which is the truth, he was involved in trying to get Headley to do an attack in Denmark. Yeah. Look at the earlier data. Earlier data was an attack on a Pakistani journalist who had been exiled, Sajid Hussain, in Sweden itself. And who disappeared. Another accident, unexplained. Third one, September 2020, Paris attacks on the question of blasphemy, on the question of the cartoon. Who was it? A Pakistani. So why can't we get these countries who have been hit, Australia, France, Sweden, all of these countries who have suffered by this? I mean, it's unbelievable that a country like Pakistan is able to do all of this and gets away with it.
Yeah.
Like Tariq Patta says on the question of nuclear weapons, where does nuclear weapons come into this equation at all? So I think India should take in these countries and institute a sort of a board of inquiry. You know, what we call a board of inquiry, and say, let's see how this is happening. How are they getting away with this kind of thing all along?
True.
That is what we do. For too long, we've been stood alone. We have been alone, but I don't think we're alone. We're going to be alone much longer.
No, and not just that. Nations in Europe who were soft peddling or trying to act soft with China, with Pakistan, and trying to balance both lobbies, etc., today must realize that terror has come knocking on their doorstep. Look at the Swedes. Where Sweden has seen the number of terror attacks in the last 6 to 8 months, and the footprints go to this entire region which Pakistan is trying to orchestrate. It is happening. This is not an accident. Lars Vilks was targeted and he was taken out. Given the whole shape of an accident. And look at what they are doing in every place. They are trying to orchestrate these killings, and they have got people who they have marked, and they will wait, and then finally come and take you out. So if that's the case, then why should we allow them to wait? We should not wait. We should go ahead, and we should, without any further waiting, go ahead and start taking these people out. And it's not that we don't know where they are. The intelligence officials across the world are strong enough to know the whereabouts and the location of these people, and if they want to take them out, they can be taken out. It's just that the collective will of democracies has to come into play. Now, let's just look at our own region before I go back to Colonel Selin and Ambassador Parthasarathy. Look at terror, ISI, and this universal link. We just looked at our own region, ladies and gentlemen. Taliban hawks in the Afghanistan government, look what they are doing and their ilk are doing. Their foot soldiers already stampeding and going around. The bomb blast, even soon after the takeover in Kabul airport, still fresh in the minds. ISI chief pulled the strings. He's now been elevated to Corps Commander Peshawar. India terror module. ISI, Jaish, D Company plot. This is very, very clearly evident. what their roles have been in multiple terror attacks on Indian soil. 2019 Sri Lanka, Easter blasts, ISI and Lashkar radicalized the attackers. And just before these attacks, about 6 months before that, 2 or 3 of the members from the Pakistan consulate in Sri Lanka were actually sent back because of their work and what they were trying to do there. Terror in Bangladesh, the ISI and the Huji nexus, everybody knows. Let's look at the 26/11 mayhem. Handler took orders from ISI. Again, terror plots in Germany, Denmark, Spain, Netherlands, and of course now Sweden. All these have now come through. Also the recent arrests which have happened, there is a Jaish ISI connection with this Zishan Osama and his father and uncle, Ambassador Parthasarathy. Now how much more evidence do we need for ourselves to move into action? We as a nation don't need anybody else. We can go and take these people out. All we need is the other nation to look the other way.
There are intelligence limitations on what you can do in a third country, but yes, there are ways of getting around it. No, it's really time to have a word with the Europeans. At least the Americans make an effort of sorts. The Europeans do nothing. You have people who are said to have blasphemed the Prophet killed in broad daylight, whether it is Sweden or whether it is France, and it's all talk. I think the fact of the matter is that you're going to get this flowing now from Afghanistan with Sirajuddin Haqqani as the new interior minister, controlling the entire border. And I think what we have to carefully watch and let the Afghans know that we'll bomb the hell out of them if people come that route.
Yeah, but we don't need to bomb the Afghans. We need to bomb. We need to bomb the ISI. We need to bomb the Fountainhead. We need to take them out.
The fact is, they are going to turn out from Afghan territory, the way it happens, with the coming of the Haqqani network.
Yeah.
So you're going to. This is going to spread, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we have to deal with Pakistan. Yes, we have to.
So let's fix the leak before it cracks the entire dam and unleashes a torrent of terror.
This government has shown in Balakot that it can act. It does not have to be a repetition of what you did. There are various.
Yeah, absolutely. But the fact is that we have to now start acting. We have to take preemptive action, and it is important. And nations have to wake up that this threat and this danger is clear and present. It's right at their doorstep. Just by looking away or not looking at the door doesn't mean that they don't exist. To all our panelists, thank you very, very much for joining us this evening on this very special broadcast. We're going to wind up the debate and the exclusive that we put out here and make way for a very, very special effort to mark Prime Minister Narendra Modi completing 20 years in governance. The Modi Model Part 3 up next.